Good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This afternoon's topic, I'm going to talk about the African Americans and the Republican Party. African Americans and the Republican Party. This issue is very important because if you look at the politics in this country amongst African Americans, the majority of black people vote Democrat. Breaking down the two-party system, which the two-party system, from my point of view, is outdated. If you go to Canada, when they have debates, you have more than one party debating. In this country, when you have debates, you have two parties. Once in a while, if there is a gubernatorial race, you may have a third-party candidate, but basically the money goes to the Democrats and the Republicans because they have the most constituents, special interests, lobbyists, corporations. So there is a lot more involved in the system. Now, with the Republican Party, you have to ask yourself, as an African American, should I take a chance to vote Republican? Now, if somebody came and asked me, I'd say I'd take a chance to vote Republican. But what is your party offering? See, the problem I have with the Republican Party is they don't reach out to African Americans, nor do African Americans vote for Republicans. Now, they don't vote for Republicans, and I'm talking about African Americans because they're always told by their Democratic constituents or their Democratic friends that the Republican Party is racist. There's nobody any more racist than the Democratic Party. They're the party of the Klan, party of J. William Fulbright, George Wallace, Ernest Hollings, you name it. They've had a number of white supremacists. And don't forget Robert KKK Byrd, the late Robert KKK Byrd from West Virginia. But why do the African American people continue to vote Democrat? I'm going to answer that question right now. It's because the Democratic Party acts like they like black people. They do. Although they promise black people the world, but give them crumbs. And the crumbs are the social programs. But why do the African American people, particularly women, go for the social programs? Answer is simple. They're free. With the Republicans, you have to work hard to get anything. But the problem with the Republicans is they don't make themselves attractive for African Americans. Let me give you this case in point. They will send out a token brother. And the one that I was very disgusted in is when they sent out Ben Carson. In fact, Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, is the wrong person for the job of handling HUD. He's a doctor. He should be the Surgeon General. Now, when I heard him speak about immigration and migration, I said, this guy is a neurosurgeon. Well, I think when he spoke about that topic, he needs to see a neurosurgeon himself because he has a few screws loose. Yes, Dr. Ben Carson, you have a few screws loose. If you don't know the difference between migration and immigration, stay out of the arena of politics. In fact, when you made that comment that immigrants were slaves, you sounded just like Ashley Judd and the rest of those buffoons on the left. And I'm talking about these paid or overpaid Hollywood actors who think they know about politics. Now, I respect Dr. Ben Carson, but on this issue, I can't agree with what he said. When you have immigration, you're going to a place based on the opportunities that you believe that you can get. And the opportunities are, for the most part, economical, politically, and socially. Now, when Dr. Ben Carson made that point that immigrants were slaves, no, the immigrants weren't slaves. It was the migrants who were slaves. Why? Because when you migrate to a country, you're actually going to that country, whether you want to be there or not. And most of the slaves were forced into that country. And a lot of the slaves were children as well. People don't know that because they are more healthy. But if you look at the slaves came over on a boat, some of them were, a lot of them were in chains, a number of them died. But they migrated to this country, and once they got here, they were put into free labor. Now, granted, some of our African brothers also sold slaves, and let me tell you this as well. You had black people who owned slaves as well. This is what you don't hear about from the liberal left. But slavery has been a tradition in America. It is free labor. That's why I say today, when I speak, okay, when I go to work, and I told you what a job is, it's just off broke. Just off broke means you're working payday to payday, not like paycheck to paycheck. It's usually before your next paycheck happens, when you get paid on the next payday, it's basically could be monthly, bi-weekly, weekly. You're broke. Now, if you're broke before next week comes, you're definitely spending your money wrong. But let me stay on topic. The Republican Party. The Republican Party has good principles, but it's not the Republican Party. It's the individuals who represent the Republican Party. Going back to Dr. Ben Carson, he is the token brother that white conservatives put out in front. But he says the most ignorant statements. You're going to tell me slavery is immigration? No, slavery is not immigration. People who immigrate basically come over here for free. People who migrate, besides the Cubans, because the Cubans take a risk to come over here and then they end up going back, and so do the Haitians. Now, the Mexicans, they migrate here. They migrate here again for the opportunities. Well, slaves were immigrated here by the blacks to whites to work on a plantation. And what happened when they got here? They worked for free. It was the house Negro that got the better food, and I did information on types of soul food a few videos ago, and then the field Negroes, they got the scraps. And this is where you saw a lot of the colorism that took place. But let me stay on topic about the Republican Party. Black people don't vote for Republicans. It's because you really don't have anything to offer them. Or black people don't vote for Republicans because they're told Republicans are racist. Republicans are not racist people. Black people won't get anything free from the Republicans. See, when you're a Republican, for the most part, they believe in classic liberalism, less government. See, what black people have been trained to do is think monolithically by the government. They depend on government for their health and welfare. The problem with that is you get scraps. But African Americans, if they want the Republicans to reach out to them, they have to be able to reach out to the Republican Party. There must be a shared consensus. We don't have that. Now, how do the Republicans reach out to black people? Well, if you have prominent black conservatives, and some of these black conservatives out here, you got to stop sounding scripted, because they do. Ben Carson sounds scripted. Sounds like he's being told what to say by your Caucasian conservatives, because they act like they like you, but deep down inside, I don't believe they like African Americans either. I just don't. Because if they really did, they would be in full force trying to get the black vote. They don't come to black communities looking for their vote. Neither do the black conservatives. Now, you don't have a lot of black conservatives running as Republicans because most of them run as Democrats. Now, the way you can also attract black folk is this. You have to not tell them what they want to hear. You got to show them something. Show them that if you participate in our party during our campaigns, we can help you with programs. You have to have some type of program because let's just be honest. It isn't fair in the United States, particularly if you're African Americans. In fact, African American people are the only ones still troubled. If you look at the other ethnic minorities, such as your Hispanics, your Italians, certainly they had money coming over here, but their legacies have been built off of African American labor. And that's another thing. Republican Party, when it comes to business, you have to teach African Americans how to think more in a managerial or entrepreneur type of mindset instead of always being on the front lines, getting their hands dirty. In other words, being used as labor. Also, you have to let African American people know that the government programs and the schools that you are attending, they don't favor you. You have to put it back in the Democrats' court that the Democrats can't offer African American people anything but government programs. And the proof can be made this way. You look at the public schools. Well, the public schools are run by a big conglomerate known as the National Education Association, which is a big union for the Democratic Party. You have to let the Democrats know that the NAACP isn't treating you right. You have to let them know that you cannot live off of government programs. You have to understand that the system is based on what you earn and what you invest and how you invest it. That's what you have to do. The problem is white conservative Republicans don't do that. They're looking at the numbers. And the reason why they don't attract black people, or why black people don't go to them as well, because when it comes to voting, well, let's be honest. Your big money is in corporations. So the corporations are run by Caucasian males. They have the majority of the money and they have the majority of the power. So when you break it down to different ethnicities, after that, then you have the Indian people, the Asian people. Now you have some of those minorities who also vote Democrat. Now with the Hispanic community, it's actually your poor Hispanics, particularly some of your Puerto Ricans and your Dominicans, they vote Democrat because they have the same type of mindset that African Americans have, and it's very monolithic. Well, the Republicans must come up with something attractive to break the mindset that black people have for the Democrats. Because the Democrats are running the same old record over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what? At the end of the day, black people are still in the same bad shape that they were in before they became voters. That's right. Monolithic thinking is not going to get you the prize. But again, if you want to be part of the Republican Party, you also have to bring your issues to the table. Again, having your issues might not be able to come from you directly, but have some type of lobbyist group that's going to lobby for you. Because politics is all about money. And when you come to the Republican Party, there really is no Republican Black Caucus to represent black people who want to come to the forefront with their issues. Now you have the Democratic Black Caucus. Now, at least Donald Trump has tried to meet with some African American people. Say what you want about him. He's tried. Obama didn't do anything for black people. He helped a lot of the gays and lesbians out and the transgender in that community. Why? Because they had the money. They were organized. Now, the biggest thing that black people must understand is start looking at the history of the Republican Party. The Republican Party had a number of African Americans in that party until Lyndon B. Johnson had everything switched in the mid-1960s. He said, we'll have African Americans voting Democrat for the next 200 years. All you have to do is promise welfare, because African Americans could not get on welfare until the 60s. So basically, African Americans did everything on their own. In fact, they were very conservative people. They had families, they had education, they had good economics, but you had the lower class white folk and martial law that destroyed all of that during the 1920s when they had the bombing of Greenwood, and that was known as Black Wall Street. And then you had a couple of white women who claimed that they were raped, and that's when Rosewood got destroyed. Same thing happened when Emmett Till was murdered. These were all conservative black people. They voted Republican. So it can be reversed with Republicans. You have to make yourself look like the Democratic Party. And what I'm telling you is this: start looking like a melting pot. Now you have to have like minds, because there are a lot of conservative black people out there. The reason why they don't speak up, because they don't want to be ostracized by the Democratic left. Because what you have on the left, you have people like Van Jones, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Michael Eric Dyson, Dr. Cornel West. They'll sit on all of these political shows, particularly on the alphabet networks like MSNBC, CNN, and they will attack any African American who doesn't believe in the liberal philosophy. So that's the first thing. You have to get on the media and try to refute what the buffer Negroes are saying. Because the buffer Negroes, what their job is to do is to be the buffer for white liberal policies. In other words, they keep selling black people the bill of goods for liberalism. The Republicans have to do that as well. Sell black people a bill of goods and follow through. Don't just sell it. Follow through. And then if you do that and you keep your promises, you're going to get black people voting for you. But until then, you're not going to get a lot of black people voting for you. And you don't know how to present your case to black people. And part of that is you have to get out of the office and go to black districts and cities. Now, of course, what would happen with that? The liberals are going to try to ostracize black folk, particularly black conservatives or any conservatives who are going into the black areas, reaching out for their vote and giving them something different than what they've been receiving. Why? Because black people are a voting bloc for Democrats. In other words, the Democratic Party assures that they're going to get the majority of the black vote. This is why they don't fool with the black vote. They don't have to. You ever heard of something being automatic? You know, you turn on your car, you put your car in first gear and go. That's how black people are to the Democratic Party. So they don't have to promise black people anything, because black people are going to vote for Democrats. You have to learn how to eliminate the rhetoric Republicans. And don't send people like Ben Carson out there who are scripted, trying to sound like they're for the so-called white supremacist policies. I mean, you're going to tell me about immigration? That immigration is slavery? No, migration came from slavery. Black people were forced to come over here and work for free. Immigration is when you come over here on your own. And that's for the opportunities. I like Ben Carson, but Mr. Carson, you need to stay in your area of health. You should be the Surgeon General. You're not Dr. Thomas Sowell. You're not Dr. Neely Fuller. Those individuals, you could talk, those two individuals, they could talk about racism and be objective about it. But going back to the Republican Party, the Republican Party must learn how to accept minorities. You just can't have that R on your sleeve and tell black people that everything is going to be all right. You have to break that social mindset, because a number of African Americans really don't know about politics. That's why when you try to talk to any African Americans about politics, particularly if you have a view other than the white liberal or the communist or socialist point of view, and you're another black person, you get ostracized. Why do you get ostracized? Because African American people, particularly the ones in the past 50 years, know nothing more than Democratic politics. And it goes down, your family voted Democrat. So what they have done, they've indoctrinated their kids into voting Democrat. And the rhetoric is all repeated throughout the generations, particularly my generation, Generation X. Most of the black people have always voted Democrat. And you have to understand, if you're a Republican, you have to convince black people that the Democratic Party is the poor party. They promise you a lot of these programs, and they really don't work because the programs keep you poor. Now, you have to have some programs. Let me tell you some good programs that can help African Americans. Let's say you're a business owner and you know competition is definitely tilted toward the white Caucasian males because they have the money. Programs like the DBE program, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. If you're a veteran, you can become certified and get 25% of contract money. In fact, these programs like the DBE, the MBE, the WBE, the Small Business Enterprise, they give small and minority and women businesses 25 to 30% of the contract money for building infrastructure. But you can have those certifications in other areas. You can be a retailer. You can be a clother, manufacturing plant. These are the programs that will help you, because black people, you must understand that the way to get anything done is have a business. We must get into that mindset of owning something. And when you have money in your hands, instead of being consumers, now, of course, that's going to be very difficult as well, because white supremacy, and I'm talking about the elite whites who own all these big corporations, are going to be threatened if black people had their own money, because that's money that's not going to them. It's going to us. And that's another thing. You have to realize that the party of the Democratic platform is basically nothing more than a welfare state. Let's just be honest. Democrats would be out of power if everybody was doing well economically. Would be any need for a Democratic Party, or the Democratic Party would come back to the center, because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the 50s and earlier were switched. The Republicans were liberal. They had progressive liberalism. Truth be told, that's when President Roosevelt, that's right, he was a liberal Republican. But going back to the programs, see, black people did well when there weren't any welfare programs, and they were Republicans. They did much better because the programs were actually discovered in the 30s, just after the stock market crashed, the Great Depression of 1929. And it was white folk who got on welfare, Social Security. And another thing, black people, if you want to be part of the Republican Party, you must bring your roots of family, religion, because you have some good Republicans, but you have to be willing to listen to their cause as well. And Republicans, you got to be willing to listen to African Americans' causes. Again, it's a relationship that could work, but you have to break the mindset of the liberal left, because the liberal left really doesn't want any African American or minority or women to come to the Republican Party. Why? Because that's less votes that the Democrats get. And then if you look at what's going on now with these silly protests, when more people start coming out, particularly who are African American, and they actually see what the Republican Party is doing, they're going to vote Republican. They're going to carry that torch. And that's what has to happen. The mindset has to be changed. And the Republican mindset also must be changed. You need to look more like the Democrats. Not sound like the Democrats, but look more like the Democrats. And here's why I'm telling you this. When I go work with somebody, even if this corporate A is filled with a melting pot, but the salaries are poor, and then you have Corporation B, you have a few tokens in there. Well, I'm going to be a little more comfortable with going to Company A. Why? Because Company B doesn't represent what we've always been told, the melting pot, diversity. The Republicans must be more diverse if they're going to attract African American people. And that's the big reason why African Americans don't vote for Democrats. Don't vote for Republicans. They're always going to be Democrats, because the Democrats do make them feel better. Again, they act like they like black people. They don't either. You're racist. So remember, Republicans and black people, you must form a consensus and talk with one another. The relationship could work, but you need to be honest with each other. Because Republicans, to win elections, you're going to need the African American vote as well as any other minority. And if the Democrats aren't taking African Americans seriously, this is time for you to get in the game and pick up African American votes if you want to stay in power. And that's this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show for today, Wednesday, March 8th, 2017. You can tune in to the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show every Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest calling number is 215-383-5785. And if you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I don't engage in controversy, emotional, nor do I deal with debates. I have dialogue here. That's why I don't engage in drama or unnecessary bickering, because what I'm here to do is give you education through my own experiences and through information that I've researched, and everything here is free. I don't accept donations. Why? Because I believe that most of us in today's world need a little bit more education, and that's outside the liberal institutions. So what I do, I take the theory and apply it to the real world. And once you understand how the real world works, it's much easier for you to be successful. So remember, everything here is realistic but positive, because knowledge is power. If you have a business or a topic that you would like for me to discuss on Blog Talk Radio or YouTube, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. And if you have a comment, Make sure that your comments are pithy. No bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering. Also, on that note, leave your comments in the comment section if you wish to opine. And that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed afternoon. Good day.